Hi, I'm Dr. Nadia Mohandisi for the Readiness Support Center, and this is Semper Gumby, a podcast about emergency management in the Corps of Engineers. We'll cover topics about disaster response and recovery, FEMA mission assignments, and Corps-specific response authorities under which we operate, for things like flood fighting and coastal emergencies.
So today we're doing something a little bit different in light of the COVID-19 global pandemic, and we thought we'd record a socially distant podcast focused on Stafford Act response information for senior leaders. COVID-19, as we all know, is an unprecedented event, with all 50 states, most territories, and more than 20 tribes under either an emergency declaration or a major disaster declaration. So I have with me Ray Farnell, our audio expert at the Readiness Support Center, and together we're going to do a sort of Q&A session to provide a quick explainer of some of the major terms and processes of typical Stafford Act events for our senior leaders who may not be familiar with USACE support to FEMA, or those who may need a refresher since their last event.
All right, Nadia, let's just start at the beginning. What is the Stafford Act?
So the Stafford Act, or the Robert T. Stafford Disaster Relief and Emergency Assistance Act, governs how the United States government provides a coordinated national response to disasters. The Stafford Act gives FEMA the lead under the National Response Framework with help from contributing agencies, and establishes a federal process for declaring disasters, determining the appropriate level of response, and dividing costs among federal, state, and local governments. So a Stafford Act event, then, is any event in which the President has issued an emergency declaration or a major disaster declaration for a state, territory, or tribe.
So it sounds like there are a couple of different Stafford Act declarations?
Yeah, that's correct. There's actually three. There's what's called a pre-declaration, an emergency declaration, or EMDEC, and a major disaster declaration, or DR.
Let's start with the pre-declaration. When is that declared?
A pre-declaration is declared when an incident is imminent or has occurred but has not been declared, and resources and assets are required to prepare for, be positioned for, or assess the effects of such an imminent incident or declaration. So in plain English, that means that, say, when a hurricane is threatening the coast, we might have a pre-declaration so that FEMA can move assets and resources in anticipation of that event.
How is that declaration funded?
Yeah, so that's a good question. And one important distinction here is there are two major types of funding under FEMA. There's what's called the FEMA base account, and then there's what's called the FEMA major disasters account. And the important thing here is that the base account is much smaller. It's in the millions, while the FEMA major disasters account is much larger, in the billions. And so pre-declaration comes out of that smaller account, the FEMA base, technically the surge account within that FEMA base.
Okay, so under the pre-declaration, let's talk about the types of mission assignments there might be.
Under pre-dec, you have only one type, Federal Operations Support, or an FOS mission, and that's 100% federally funded.
Let's talk about the types of mission assignments under the pre-declaration.
There's only one type of mission assignment that is eligible under a pre-declaration, and that's a Federal Operations Support, or FOS-MA. Now that's 100% federally funded. And that's important because it allows FEMA and other federal agencies to deploy at 100% federal cost to be in the disaster area when the event occurs and immediately respond to state requests after the event. So pre-dec MAs are no longer issued once a declaration has been made, either an emergency declaration or a major disaster declaration.
So that's pre-declaration. Let's look at emergency declaration, or EM. When is that declared?
So an EMDEC is declared, technically you start with a request. It's requested by the state to FEMA, specifically the FEMA region associated with that state, and it's declared when the President agrees that the potential damages will meet the requirements of a major declaration.
And the funding source?
So that one also comes out of the FEMA base account. That's the much smaller account, the one in the millions.
How about the mission assignments for this one?
Both types of mission assignments are eligible under an EMDEC. So that's an FOS, or Federal Operations Support mission assignment, again, 100% federally funded. And then you have the second type of mission assignment, which is the Direct Federal Assistance, or DFA mission assignment. Now that one is subject to a non-federal cost share, either 0%, 10%, or 25%. Typically, that's 25%. And what that means is the federal government pays 75% of the cost of that mission and that mission assignment, and then the state or other non-federal partner pays the 25%. Now, what's important to note here is that EMDECs allow FEMA to provide some response programs immediately before or after an event occurs, but the EMDEC MAs are capped at $5 million, though a FEMA region can request increase as needed. And again, these come from the much smaller base account. That's different with a major disaster declaration.
The major disaster declaration, let's cover that one.
Yeah, the major disaster declaration, or DR, also starts with a request. And that's requested by the state to the FEMA region, and it's declared by the president after preliminary damage assessments show that the damages meet a specific per capita dollar threshold.
How about the funding source for the major disaster declaration?
Yeah, so DRs, or major disaster declarations, come out of that much larger account, the FEMA Major Disasters account, and that's the one in the billions. That's an important distinction.
Okay, and the types of mission assignments?
So there are two mission assignment types that are eligible under a DR. Those are the Federal Operations Support Mission Assignment, which we already spoke about. That's FOS, 100% federally funded. And then there's also the Direct Federal Assistance, or DFA, mission assignment. Now, that one is subject to a non-federal cost share, either 0%, 10%, or 25%. Typically, it's 25%. And what that means is that the federal government covers 75% of the cost of that mission under that mission assignment, and then the state or the non-federal partner is responsible for covering 25% of that cost.
Nadia, we talked about mission assignments, or MAs. Let's go into a little more detail on what a mission assignment is.
Sure, Ray. So a mission assignment is a reimbursable work order for a task given in anticipation of or in response to the presidential declaration of an emergency or major disaster. It includes a broad statement of work, and it provides the funds to perform work when the specific work items are approved under a mission assignment task order, or MATO.
What are the different types of MAs?
Like we described earlier, there's two types. There's the FOS, or Federal Operations Support, and there's the DFA, or Direct Federal Assistance. So an FOS MA is requested by the federal government for any type of support to federal operations. It's federal to federal. Again, it's 100% federally funded, and it's eligible before or after a declaration. Now, a Direct Federal Assistance Mission Assignment, or a DFA mission assignment, requires the state to prepare a request for assistance, or an RFA, to FEMA for resources beyond the state's capability to provide for or to contract for. Now, again, this is the one that's subject to cost share provisions. It's normally a 75% federal share and a 25% non-federal share. And this requires state approval. Now, these mission assignments, the DFA ones, are eligible only after a declaration. No federal agency may accept an RFA, which again is request for assistance, from a state other than FEMA. No federal agency may adjust a mission assignment other than FEMA. And specific work under a mission assignment may only start when FEMA provides a MATO, or a mission assignment task order, which is the notice to proceed.
The MATO, or the mission assignment task order, what's that?
So that is the FEMA signed document that states USACE can proceed to perform specific work under a mission assignment. So this might include personnel, resource movement, and specify locations for delivery and duty stations. It's similar to a notice to proceed under a contract. For example, if you're familiar with the temporary emergency power mission, it's sort of when USACE receives a specific generator install task for a specific location within a state through a MATO.
And can these be amended? Is there anything like a mission assignment amendment?
There is, in fact. Sometimes in the execution of a mission assignment, it might be necessary to amend the original MA. So MAs can be amended for changes in funding amounts, for changes in the period of performance, and for changes to the FEMA project manager, though these are usually amended in conjunction with another change. And so that's called what it is, actually. It's called a mission assignment amendment. Now, it's important to note here that an MA can never be amended for a change in the statement of work. Changes to the statement of work require a new mission assignment. Changes in cost share for specific time frames, not within the life of the MA, also require a new mission assignment.
Okay, so let's go through the process of declaration to mission assignment.
There's actually kind of two distinctions we'll run through. So the first is pre-declaration. How do we go from pre-declaration to mission assignment? So first, a state declares a pending emergency and requests a FEMA region to deploy an Incident Management Assistance Team, or an IMAT, to the state. Now, an IMAT is FEMA's full-time rapid response team with a dedicated staff to deploy within 2 hours and arrive at an incident within 12 hours to support the local incident commander. FEMA has several IMATs. The next step in pre-declaration process is that FEMA deploys that IMAT to the state and activates the anticipated required emergency support function, for example, ESF3. We'll cover that in just a bit. But deployment and activation are accomplished through a Federal Operations Support, or FOS, mission assignment. And remember, that's 100% federal cost. And that's coming out of the surge account. So the third step is that if the state determines that the disaster exceeds the response capabilities of the state and local governments, they may request an emergency declaration, or EMDEC, through the FEMA chain. That's through the FEMA region to headquarters to the president. Now, mission assignments under EMDECs are typically limited to $5 million total, though it is routine for the $5 million limit to be easily increased through FEMA notification to Congress. So next, the state, tribe, or territory will request the assistance. So they request specific assistance from FEMA by submitting a resource request form, or RRF. FEMA will either approve or deny this RRF, and if it's denied, the process stops here. There's no mission assignment issued. Now, if FEMA approves that RRF, then they process it into a mission assignment. This includes writing the scope of work and a period of performance, and then it's issued. So FEMA will issue the mission assignment to a specific federal agency under the National Response Framework, and if it's USACE, we receive the MA and we begin work. Now, post-declaration is just a little bit different, but it still starts with a request. So the state requests an emergency declaration through the FEMA chain to fill the gap before preliminary damage assessments are conducted. The EMDEC is recommended by FEMA and approved by POTUS if the damage estimates look to meet or exceed a specific per capita threshold, or the state can bypass the EMDEC and request a major disaster declaration, or DER, through the FEMA chain, in which the state and FEMA perform joint preliminary damage assessments. The DER is then recommended by FEMA and approved by POTUS if the damage estimates look to meet or exceed the per capita threshold for a DER. From there, the process is similar to the one we just talked about. It starts with a request for assistance through a resource request form. FEMA denies or approves the resource request form. They process that into a mission assignment. Now, that'll include writing the scope of work, the period of performance, and post-dec or include also fund site and cost share if applicable. And then FEMA would issue that mission assignment under the National Response Framework again to a specific agency. And if it's an ESF3 mission assignment, it would come to USACE, and USACE would receive that mission assignment and begin work.
Okay, so you mentioned National Response Framework, or NRF. Let's talk a little about that.
Yeah, so the NRF is a guide to how the nation responds to all types of disasters and emergencies. It's built on scalable, flexible, and adaptable concepts identified in the National Incident Management System to align key roles and responsibilities across the nation. The Stafford Act gives FEMA the lead with the help from contributing agencies, while the NRF assigns specific roles and responsibilities to each of these federal agencies. These designations are called Emergency Support Functions, or ESF. So
USACE is assigned a particular ESF?
Right. USACE is the lead agency for ESF3, Public Works and Engineering. We are FEMA's engineer. So our pre-scripted standard mission sets include things like debris removal and clearance, temporary emergency power, temporary housing and critical public facilities, or CPF, temporary roofing, infrastructure assessment, and urban search and rescue structural specialists. The Corps also lends trained personnel to support other ESFs, such as ESF9, which is urban search and rescue, when FEMA activates them. Now, upon state request, FEMA can task USACE to execute these missions through mission assignments like we just spoke about. We can also perform, as requested, engineering missions that fit our core capabilities but don't fall under the above pre-scripted mission assignments. For example, a lot of the construction, design, engineering, planning support that's going on right now for our alternate care sites.
Nadia, let's talk about the USACE elements that can respond under ESF3.
Right, so USACE responders must be mission assigned by FEMA to respond during an event. And they can deploy in two main ways. One, as part of a functional ESF3 cadre, or two, as part of a planning and response team, or a PRT. So ESF3 cadres include team leaders, assistant team leaders, and local government liaisons. We also have ESF3 functional cadres, for example, contracting, resource management, GIS, safety and occupational health, and external affairs.
So what is an ESF3 team leader and an assistant team leader? What are their roles and responsibilities?
So an ESF3 team leader, or TL, and assistant team leader, or ATL, is a specialized cadre, and it's comprised of specially trained individuals with tactical and operational Stafford Act experience-based knowledge. They're also trained on the NRF and all ESF3 missions that the planning and response teams perform. The team leaders, in coordination with the USACE-supported organization, are authorized to accept and negotiate mission assignments from FEMA. The TL and the ATL, that's the assistant team leader, form the ESF3 management cell, and each planning and response team mission area also has designated subject matter experts who can deploy if needed.
And you also mentioned Local Government Liaison, or LGL. What are they?
Again, the Local Government Liaison cadres, or LGLs, are another cadre of specially trained individuals from across USACE. They deploy when requested by FEMA, under FEMA leadership, into a FEMA branch or division that's located at a city or county emergency operations center, and they serve as the initial USACE point person at this level to help explain our missions under FEMA. They do not, however, commit USACE or the government to any work for the state or for the locals under FEMA or USACE's authorities.
Well, Nadia, it sounds like we've really covered a lot today. Do you have anything else you want to touch on?
You're right, Ray. I think let's stop there for today. And we'll cover a basic overview of FEMA's organization, as well as its programs, key senior leader positions, and key FEMA-led response nodes in the next episode. So in the meantime, we hope you found this brief refresher helpful and relevant for the next Stafford Act event in which you may be involved. And Ray, we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us. And everyone else, keep safe, keep healthy, and wash your hands.
That's all we have for today's episode. Thanks for joining us, and we hope you've learned something. Please subscribe to our feed and check back for future episodes. I'm Dr. Nadia Mohandasi, and this is Semper Gumby.